Yes, it's great to be here online with you. My name is Alex Tsado, and in terms of talking about my background as it relates to AI, well, I'll start by saying I'm Nigerian. Grew up in the ancient city of Benin. Now I spend a lot of my time in California, and I moved to California because of my job with NVIDIA. I used to work at NVIDIA. I was in the product team, and I was responsible for working with all the cloud service providers to launch their first GPU instances. So this is the likes of AWS, Microsoft Azure, Google Cloud, and some of the other bigger cloud providers in Europe and in Asia. We worked with them to sell the idea of artificial intelligence and how that could potentially transform the world of innovation. And it has. The world has now transformed to a place where AI is almost synonymous with growth and innovation. And I left that role in 2020, and just about a year and a half before that, uh, um, took on the hat of co-founding Alliance for AI, Alliance for Africa's Intelligence, with the simple mission of ensuring Africa doesn't get left behind in the age of disruptive revolutions. Currently, the first disruptive revolution we're living through is artificial intelligence, but after this, there will be others like quantum computing, even blockchain. And so we recognized that it was really difficult for our systems. They were not set up in a way to keep up with all of this. Our universities weren't picking up and changing their curriculums fast enough. Neither were our high schools. Our governments were not set up to change fast enough. And so we decided that we'll create, from the philanthropic side, that an NGO that could create programs that would support our universities, support our governments, and support our startups to keep up with innovation. And through the course of our conversation today, I imagine we'll talk about more of the initiatives that have been part of this last 5 years. And it's pretty exciting what is coming.
Thank you. Based on your roles at NVIDIA and AWS and Azure, what do you think would be the go-to-market strategies for cloud AI computing in Africa, and how can that be used to improve industries in this continent?
Yes, I will even expand it beyond cloud computing in Africa. I think that the big deal is that we need age of AI to be different from the past age. In the past age, Africa was mostly a consumer of innovation. Africa would usually like a lot of the Africa was a source of raw materials where the rest of the world would extract raw materials from Africa, take it outside, do the manufacturing, and then sell the finished product, or sometimes 10 times more expensive, sometimes 100 times more expensive. In the age of AI, we must ensure that that is not the case for several reasons. One is it's just bad economically, but the second is with AI, it's actually worse in terms of harm. When you don't build the solutions that you use in AI, there's a very big chance that the solution has there's a high risk that it can harm you. Why is this? When you design AI solutions, there are several decisions you need to make, from what data do you use to train the AI model to how do you interpret what you are seeing in the data. When you're not the one designing the AI solution, you have blind spots. It's not because you're a bad person. You just have blind spots, aware of the way things affect those people and of its historical issues that they have. For example, even in the United States, where it's almost like ground zero for AI. There was a very bad history of in the hiring space where Black people will not get hired for certain type of jobs, women will not get hired for certain type of jobs like engineering. And so when they built AI tools to become like the HR to select people for jobs, it will not give women jobs in engineering, or think that Black people were smart enough to get this kind of jobs. That's what happens when you build AI and you are not a Black person, you're not a woman. The very same thing happens in Africa with AI. And so that's why it's extremely imperative for us to change our stance in Africa of being scared of AI to instead we must be the builders of AI. So that's the first point. And that leads to the second point, which is to be builders of AI, you need very, very fast computers to build them, which is, people call it compute. They're just referring to fast computers. And typically fast computers need NVIDIA GPUs, right? 80%, if not more, of AI computers in the world today are powered by NVIDIA GPUs, which is, by the way, where I said I used to work. And so those GPUs are not present in Africa today, extremely low. And we need to do something big to change that. Either it's figuring out ways to improve the supply chain and be able to sell these high-end laptops in Africa, or it's in the cloud service providers who are in Africa to buy more of the GPUs to be on the continent and then provide it to innovators and researchers on the continent and at a more affordable rate.
Yeah, I agree. And now, as a member of the steering committee of the Alliance for Africa's Intelligence, which aims to drive African innovation on AI, and you've talked about the bias and discrimination caused by the algorithms that are fed into large language models. Could you please discuss some of the projects that are currently under the Alliance for Africa's Intelligence, and what can be done to ensure that AI does not continue entrenching bias and discrimination among Blacks and Africa in general?
Yes, definitely. The simple answer is that we need to be builders. It's not complicated at all. We're having so many complicated conversations about this for the past 4 or 5 years, and we seem to be missing the point. The whole point is we need to be the builders. When we build the solutions, we reduce the bias question more than 50% because we will be supplying our own data ourselves. We will be interpreting the data in much better ways than anyone else can interpret the data. So that solves more than 50% of the problem. The remaining 50% of the problem is that we ourselves have our own biases. So we have to be aware of our own biases. In our own cultures, there are ways we've been biased in the past. The piece about excluding women from work, we do it too in Africa. So when we build the HR tool in Africa, we should be aware that we don't want it to replicate this same bias. And when you are aware of it, you can trick the AI to behave differently from the way life used to be. It doesn't have to be the exact way the data, the history was. You can design it to be different. And once we're aware of that, we can. Similarly, we also have some biases that relate to nationality or the tribe you're from. We should be cognizant of these things when we build our own AI models. It's not that we need to argue for policy and things like that. It's that we need to be building AI tools. And to build AI tools, you need to train people to the education. You need to provide the fast computers, right? And then you need to support them in terms of things like financing and all of that. So this is like the most important answer. And when we now come back to Alliance for AI and the ways we're trying to support all these things happening. But the first big thing we did back in 2020 was to create the first list of 100 AI startups in Africa, put them on the map. That was able to change people's mindsets to think maybe Africa is part of the AI race. If there are 100 companies that are working in AI or using AI in Africa. So that was incredible. The second thing we did was to work with governments on AI policy, the same policies I'm talking about. To support that, if I took a step back, we put out a call in the United States for as many Africans who are already doing really incredible work in AI at universities and companies and formed a group. It's literally a community, a WhatsApp community of really, really top AI people from Africa. And then we turned around and started talking to African governments and saying, you should be thinking about artificial intelligence. And whenever we got an engagement, we will involve Africans from that country on the engagement. So we ended up working with South Africa. We worked with Rwanda. We worked a little bit with Tunisia. We worked with Nigeria on their AI strategy, on their AI policy. And we worked with the Africa Union and we're able to connect them with their own people who are in the diaspora so that they can inform these decisions are being made by our government. And that was really tremendous. The third thing, and I'll talk about four, the third thing that we decided to do was in the education space. We recognized that it was very difficult. It appeared to be very difficult for the Ministry of Education to make teaching AI a necessary thing for schools. They say it's expensive to train teachers, it's expensive to buy new textbooks and so many things. So we created an AI club program that we created our own curriculum and our own process for students to teach themselves in peer groups. And this way they have chapters and they're teaching themselves about AI for many years now. So we have these chapters in Kenya, in Tanzania, in Rwanda, in Tunisia, in Ghana, and people have graduated and they are, they have startups, they're working with African companies, they're working with big global companies like Microsoft, Oracle, Goldman Sachs, and they're becoming, we call them future makers. They're the ones who are changing things because they've learned now they can change their university and make them teach AI. And then the final thing I'll mention is those fast computers, the GPUs, the compute. That's the biggest thing that can happen in Africa today is the funding of GPUs, of fast supercomputers, so that all the many, like over 50,000 people have been trained in Africa to build AI now, but they don't have fast computers to build. So it's almost like you train someone to drive a car, but there's no car to drive. The person has to leave the country. They have to leave the continent because there's no car to drive. And so we need to bring the car to them. We need to bring the fast supercomputers to them. And we hope that project starts to have legs this year.
Building our own AI to solve our own problems. Now you're the co-founder of our AI and you also support the Nzindi project. You've been seeing the work they're doing over the years. What would you say has been the impact on data science in Africa and solving problems from within using our own algorithms? How has been the journey?
Yes, there's been massive impact. Zindi.Africa is one of the most important AI organizations on the continent. It's one that really blows people's minds away. When you think of AI in Africa, you think, oh, they're just getting started. There's nothing happening there. So the same way people's minds were blown when they saw the Alliance for AI chart of the first 100 AI companies, that's the same way they are blown when I asked them, how many data scientists do you think are on Zindi platform? The answers are like 100, 500. Well, no, it's over 75,000. Over 75,000 data scientists on the Zindi platform. And what are they doing there? It's like a competition platform where companies that don't have AI capable people in their employee base or their staff, which is most companies, they can come and host a competition on Zindi. And then the Zindians will compete for 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks to solve the problem. And then after that time, the company has an AI solution to their problems. And on top of that, they can decide if they want to. First of all, they provide a gift. They provide a prize for winning this. And that prize is typically cheaper than you pay full-time staff to work on a problem. And then secondly, they can decide if they want to hire the team that builds the solutions. So this is a truly phenomenal solution that Zindi is providing for the Africa ecosystem. And those solutions have been transformational. Organizations that host competitions on Zindi continue to host more competitions because they are seeing the power of AI, the power of using your data to make decisions. You have organizations like banks, like ABSA in South Africa, that brought their data over, and the scientists were able to understand the data and figure out which kind of people are likely to commit fraud when they are collecting a loan from your bank. And because of that, the bank was able to, improve their decision making on which kind of people to perhaps not give loans to and which kind of people to give more loans to. So it increased the financial inclusion because they were able to use this data. Another example is in the agriculture space, where there was an organization that had pictures of many farms from drones. The scientists were able to look at those pictures and start to determine which pictures have plants that have some sort of diseases or pests. That way it can automate the detection of these things a lot earlier, and then make proposals to farmers in small farms and big farms on what kind of solutions they need, whether it's pesticides or different kind of things that they need to use on the farm. These are just simple examples of some of the kind of projects that run on Zindi. And it's a demonstration of what can happen when we do this at scale, when we're able to provide the kind of funding the scientists need, or we're able to provide the kind of fast supercomputers these scientists need.
agree infrastructure support. The other issue has been regulation of AI in Africa. And we have only seen very few countries developing AI strategies to prepare for AI takeoff. My question is, what needs to be done by African governments so that they are at par with the rest of the world in terms of AI development in a safe mechanism while preserving ethics and data privacy?
Yeah. It's exactly the same things I've been talking about the whole time. The government just needs to focus on these exact things. It's the three things are data, talent, and compute. The government needs to figure out ways to invest in the talent development. There are many, many NGOs and communities now working on talent development in AI for Africa, but they cannot reach the kind of scale that the government can reach. The government can support the Ministry of Education to formalize the whole thing, so that people are being taught in secondary schools and universities about AI. The government can do that. The government can also work on projects that involve data. People say Africa doesn't have data. It's not true. Africa has a lot of data. The challenge is the data is in silos. Different government organizations have their own data in different places. Different private organizations, hospitals have their own data. If there are incentives created so that the data can be connected, they will now have an aggregate kind of data, connected and uniform. Government can be the forcing function that drives and creates incentives so the ecosystem will do this for themselves. Thirdly is compute. The government needs to invest in compute. No government in Africa, the governments in Africa have done a lot of policy and strategy work so far, but none of them is investing their budget in compute. As far as I can't say none. There are a few that have invested a little bit. They need to invest a lot more. They have a budget. They should use it for this. They should invest in computers, because if they don't invest in the computers, it's all talk. Once again, you can't train someone to drive a car when there's no car to drive. It's like useless. What are you doing? Right? They all say they are focusing 80% on talent training. What are you training people for? There's no car to drive. Buy them the car so they can do something. That's where government should focus on. I'll focus a lot less on, they are focused on safety, harm, and ethics by talking. You don't focus on ethics and ethics by talking. You focus on it by enabling your people to build, right? So they should shift the focus away from talking about ethics and enabling their people to build. That's the way to do it.
And over the years you have been in the AI industry, what do you think is the role of international collaborations in advancing AI research and applications in Africa?
The international collaborations will help. Yes, they will help. The role where we leverage them for is to try and convince our private sector and our public sector, our governments, to do what they're supposed to do. When they do what they're supposed to do, we will no longer need the need for the international collaborations will be less. Their job is to support us. But right now we're treating it as if their job is they're the ones to do everything. That's not correct. We need to step up and do our own parts. Our governments need to step up and do their own part. So as it is right now, the international donor community, they're the ones who are funding many things. They're funding talent training. They're funding data gathering. And little by little, they are funding some provision of compute. So that's what's happening. And it's good. We thank them and they should continue to do this, but we need the support of our own governments to do similar thing. It's our own responsibility to do it.
Yeah, and we are seeing startups majoring in AI from all corners of Africa right now, but they're struggling with attracting venture capital. What can be done to ensure that they get to fluid flow of financing, whether from the West or domestic?
Yeah, the good thing is it's the same answers to what I mentioned before. The enabling environments created by the government, these startups will have a better chance of building good solutions. And if you have a better chance of building good solutions, venture capital will run to you, right? It will run to you. If venture capital sees that there's more talent to hire, venture capital sees that there's more data to use, venture capital sees that there's more fast supercomputers that are provided in an accessible and affordable way, they know that you can build AI solutions. So they will invest in you. But right now, if they don't see all those three things, it's like a waste of their money. Why are they giving you the money to invest? When they give you the money, you struggle, you can't find people to hire, you can't find data to use, your compute access is extremely expensive. There was a study that was done last year that showed that if you have a data scientist in Kenya, data scientist in Germany, right, for the data scientist in Kenya, it costs 30 times is more expensive, 30 times more expensive to access fast computers than if you're in Germany. So it's better to invest in the startup in Germany, full stop. So this is a very big problem, and our government needs to do something about it. And yeah, that's just simply it.
Yeah, and what is your idea of a world run by AI, ultimately by robots, holograms, and all these algorithms? What is your ideal world run by AI?
I think of it less as a world run by AI and more of AI is just automation. AI is automating things that we already know how to do. And it's humans running things. When you now know how to automate it, you do it faster using AI. For example, even the past things that we had was calculator is an example of something that's similar to AI. Before calculators, you have to use your brain to do mathematics. You do 1 + 1 = 2. You do big multiplication numbers in your head, or you use a paper. But when you have a calculator, now you type it in and it will give you the answer. That's the same way with AI. You can now automate things. You can automate things. If you have very, very big questions that you need to ask so you can do your work, you can now ask ChatGPT for the answer, for it to teach you how to think about the answer. And then you get the answer, right? And you get it in 2 minutes. But someone else who doesn't have ChatGPT, it will take them 2 weeks or 2 months to get the same answer. They are so much slower. You are so much faster. That's how AI changes the whole thing. Another example for farmers. Without AI, as a small farmer, you have to go outside and dig and clear that whole place and remove weeds and things like that, or planting the seeds. But with AI, you cannot design an autonomous planting agent that you just press the button and it will go and plant everything in the whole farm for you. So it will automate that process and make it faster. And by the way, this is not fiction. This is an actual company we invested in Ghana that is doing automatic planting of seeds around the farm. That is what this is about, is AI to automate things that we do as human beings. It's Africa's chance of improving our economic situation. This is a very big chance for Africa and we should take it. This is a great equalizer. It gives us tools that we can use to improve our economic situation. That's what AI is. And it's not, AI taking over the world. That's not what is happening here in Africa. And we have a chance to do things differently from other parts of the world.
Yeah, and this process of automating human tasks, we have seen several cases of AI hallucinations, and we've also seen the potential for AI weaponization. How can the world control this?
Yes. Hallucination. It's almost like when we have been teaching people about AI for the last 3 years, it's like, it's your employee. It's like your assistant. It's helping you out. When you have an assistant or an intern, do you ever take the thing they give you without checking it? You're not supposed to, but you are the boss. You ask your employee or your intern to do something for you. When it brings it in, you give it feedback to change it. You give it feedback to change it. Eventually, you like what is happening, or you add your own final touch. That's how it works. So with AI, is the same thing. So all this talk about hallucination, it's supposed to be the case. You change, you correct it when you see an issue. The point is not that AI is human, it can do everything 100%. The point is AI gets you from 0% to 80%, saves you weeks, saves you so much money. Now your job is to complete it and complete the task. That's how things work. So we should take the responsibility and we should pay the boss, or the human being, and AI is the intern. So let it do its own part and then you do your own part. That's how you use AI. And the truth of the matter is every single week, the AI models get better and they make fewer errors because they learn. When people correct them, they learn over time. They make fewer and fewer errors. It's the same way if you have an intern. On day one, they're going to make a lot of issues. They're going to make a lot of mistakes. But by 6 months, they will know so much more and they will be better. It's the same exact way. So this is how the world of AI is progressing. And that's how we should safely use AI tools.
Thank you so much. Now, the last question. Uh, where do you see Africa in 2030 with this impact of AI? How do you see AI improving industries in Africa in the next 5 years?
It depends completely on what we do. The ball is in our court. If our governments are a very big deal in Africa, I wish it was only private sector that had the say here. Private sector can try all it wants, but the government is very important. So there are very big things, when it comes to AI that governments needs to put a hand into it, from educating a lot of people to enabling and creating enabling environments. Like when you have to import heavy equipment for AI, it's very expensive. And the government put an import duty on top of it that is extremely high. There's nothing worse than this. And our governments really need to stop doing it. And only the government can change that. The private sector cannot change that. The governments have to become aware of this horrendous behavior and do something about it. And then in terms of providing the fast computers so our people can build, there has to be that big investment to subsidize the access to that. These things have to change. If they don't change by 2030, we're going to have an Africa where there's going to be AI from the rest of the world coming into Africa. We are going to continue to be consumers and users of AI. The AI we're importing will harm people. The AI we're importing will take away jobs because they will be much faster than the alternatives that are being built by our own people. When our own people's products are not good enough, well, what's the point? You fire everybody, right? You close down the company. We will lose so many jobs. And this is at the same time when our continent is going to have an explosion of population. We will have the highest population of youth in the world, all with no jobs. That's going to be a very, very terrible future. And that's the future we're going for right now. If we don't change. We have to change. Our governments have to change. Our private sectors have to change and do the opposite, which is when you create this fast supercomputers, when you create this enabling environment, you remove those import taxes. When you train enough people, our people will build AI solutions that solve African problems. These will create new markets that we are not even aware of right now. And they will translate into millions of jobs. We will create millions of jobs because of AI tools that we build. Even in the health space, you can imagine healthcare workers in villages now have smartphones that can answer many medical questions for people in the villages. This would be a job for thousands of people. You would now have people in the creative industry that can use an AI tool to create better stories, create animation, create movies. It reduces the cost of production by more than 100 times if you're running the right application. You now have many more young people who can be more creative and create all this stories and animation of Africa. You have so many jobs across so many industries because you enable the African builders to build. That's the future that I hope we get to by 2030. One where our young people who are of working age have jobs that are created using AI, and we're able to paint Africa in the way that we want to see it. I hope that we